Still going. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our new Thursday podcast, Emergence of Being. We'll probably come up with a new title, but we are kind of shifting our focus all towards relationships. And we just have about 20 to 25 minutes today. So if you have questions, please ask sooner than later. I put that in the comments too. Uh, I was thinking, like, gearing up, we're not going to talk about it so much today, but start thinking about questions about marriage. What is it? Why do we do it? And all that type of thing. So that's kind of a little teaser for when we are going to have our next longer block. We're going to dive in to marriage.
Yeah, it's a messy world out there. So we were talking, Hank and I were talking just the construct of marriage and how everything is in life. There's the divorce rate is, I believe, last I checked, 62%. I don't know if you've checked at
Ooh,
all, Hank.
I don't,
Um,
I saw, yeah, it's like 50. The last thing I saw, it was like 56%. And then they were accounting for how many people stay together just for financial reasons or for the kids. And then that was like another, like a lot.
yeah.
It meets the definition in the law as to gross negligence. Choosing an action that is it has a higher percentage of the not to cause harm is considered negligence. So
Yeah.
that's marriage in today's thing. But I don't think any. Well, I guess we're starting to talk about it. Like, why do people get married? Are they even really recognizing what it is they're signing up for and things like that? And that kind of brings me to the thought of what I was thinking about today is new relationship energy and the chemical smorgasbord that happens when two people first meet and there's all this dopamine and who knows what all is going off in their head. And for like the first 90 days to usually 90 days to 6 months, but it can last longer, they have this like just this honeymoon phase. And then and your love strategy is one thing during that stage, and people will run in and do all the stuff, and the next thing you know, you turn around, you look back, and everything's different, and you don't know what happened. Well, your chemicals ran out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We're done, guys. That's how it is. It's your chemical.
Your chemicals ran out. And really with NLP, like they talk about how your courting strategy is different than your loving strategy, but you get into this thing and then you don't know how to actually communicate with the person that is across from you. And then if you have already gotten kids, then it's all about the kids instead of each other. And by the time you know it, you have kids graduating and the person you live with, if you made it that long, you don't even recognize them. Like, who is this person?
Oh my gosh, yes. And this is the common theme. So we get into this routine, and if we look, we did a podcast on this a long time ago, I think, relationships with Jake, where
Yep.
relationships all started, where marriage all started. It evolved over time. And I'm not going to, I'm afraid I'm going to
Yep.
offend people, but I'm going to say it anyway because there's no other way to say it. The construct and structure of marriage was created over time and was created by the church too. It had a big to do with it. So now we are almost programmed that this is what you do. You grow up with the intention of getting married, procreating, and that's your life. And that is not the evolution of the soul. And we were talking, Hank and I were talking like that the construct of marriage and the way that it is formatted or has been formatted over all these years doesn't work as well for this day and age. It just doesn't.
Yep.
So we're really talking about that, and how do we reinvent marriage 5.0, version 5.0, that's more fitting for today's society. Now, we're not saying go sleep with everybody and just be chaotic. There's a lot to this. However, if we look at what marriage was 8 million years ago, there was no marriage. Everybody was just in a pot. Everybody helped each other, and this was formulated over time. So when you have a wedding, it is a joyous moment for, like, think about the progression of events. You build yourself up, you're in love, you're those like hormones and all those things are raging, and you're just all excited and, oh my gosh, it's today. But then what happens a week later, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, 3 months later, 8 months later? You've got a baby now. It's like a balloon that literally gets deflated. Because I watch people, I love to watch people, and I've gone to many weddings, and I'm sure Hank's gone to many weddings, and it's
Hmm.
people are all, they're bright, they're shiny, they're so happy. And then I see them 2 years later, and they're with three kids. And pardon everybody, but some people have gained weight. Their morphology of their face a lot of times is completely changed. And I'm like, what is going on here? So the chemicals ran out. Is that it? And there's no replacing those chemicals. I don't know.
No, well, there's different ways to get them, but you got to work at it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you got to
Yeah.
work at it. And I think when when you can find the expansion within yourself, which is lost a lot of times in this current, not current day, but the construct of marriage that has gone along for many, many, many years, it's all about the children. There's very little self-care. I see few people that still maintain their own integrity and their own soul's expansion and their expansion of themselves
Yeah.
and work on the kids. The kids are just little guys that they just need a
Mm-hmm.
little help until they get their own compass and move along. So there's a lot to talk about here.
Yeah, and that's why this is just a prep. I wasn't really planning to dive into this now, but it's like you follow the energy, and the thing that I almost lost it. Is it going to come back? Oh, when we were talking about like 56% or more, maybe it's more like 60 now, of marriages and a divorce. The more staggering number, and this shows how important the idea of marriage is to the human in terms of a social thing, is that 86% of the people decide to get remarried. They just went through and had a mass failure in a marriage, and the 56% of the people jump back into it again. And it shows that there's like a super important driving force. So it's important to us, but like really, what is it? And it's been put into a box. And I can say, like, for Anya and I'm going to throw Anya under the bus just a little bit, nothing bad. Like, but with kids, like we talked about, we really drifted, and we had to come to like I had to come to Jesus moments. Like, we really got to work on this without going into all the details. But we went through like this whole process that I would call like this de-enmeshment phase, where it was kind of like, I use the analogy, you have two pots and you throw them in the same pot. Now their roots are totally tangled, and you lose your identity of yourself in the other person. And it is a messy and painful thing to like pull yourself. Like, have you ever tried to separate two plants that have grown together, and you're like ripping roots and everything to put them in their own pot? But the idea is like, how do you maintain your individuality as a soul, as a being, and use the relationship in a marriage or another relationship to empower the other person to be their most authentic self? Like, that's like, because usually it's all about sacrifice. I need to sacrifice this. I can't do this in order to make this work. And in that energy of sacrifice, it's like, oh, that, like, you're giving yourself up. And the only thing that can happen over time is resentment. Well, that's a projection. I don't know that. Maybe people are just happy sacrificing and being miserable. But I think more often than not, you sacrifice something that's really alive for you to make a relationship work, instead of like, how can we empower each other to really do the things that are alive for us?
Mm-hmm. And when you think about marriage and your wedding day and the days leading up to your wedding day, which again is very stressful too. I think about the wedding day is all about the other people. It's not even about you. You're so worried about making sure everybody eats the right food and the cake is right and your dress is right. How much of it is really on you? But you think about it, two people are at their primest, brightest, most energized on the days leading up, right? You're so excited. You're in some sort of, I don't want to say alignment, but because when emotions are high intelligence is low. So when you notice when you're too angry, or opposite, when you're too in love, you don't think straight. You don't make rational decisions, right? But nevertheless, these are two people that have now built themselves up. They've lost all the weight to get into the dress, to get into the suit, to look their most perfect, right? That is a moment of pure, like, your highest and brightest self, right? You have all the love energy, you look fantastic, you feel great, you're happy, you're the happiest you could be. And then it's a brief moment in time. Where and how do we maintain that? And the only way to do that, I think, is to continue to work on self, yet that does not happen.
No, because it's all about the other person, instead of like, the relationship is one thing, but you're still two individuals. And there could be argument for that, because the legal definition of marriage is you become one. Like, even as, it's not like a partnership where you, like, I own 50% of the business and you own 50% of the business. It's like a union. We both own 100%, is that kind of the idea. And even legally speaking, unless you have a prenuptial agreement and everything, it's like, you're one. If you make $100,000 a year and I make 20,000, that your 100,000 is half, that's mine too. And it's really wild, like that. we have like this unification, but then we like lose our individuality. It's kind of
We
paradoxical.
Yeah, a lot of, I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of people lose their individuality. And then, yeah, it comes to the empty net. It's a very common progression of events that I have studied, kind of looked at, and going to continue to study more and really look into this because, and then, yeah, you're sitting at the dinner table, the kids are gone, you've spent all this time and energy giving to the kids, which this is the way it goes. And people may argue on this, and some people feel that is the progression of your life. You have kids, you should put all of your energy into the kids, but then you're sitting at the dinner table and you don't even know who that person is anymore. They are
Yeah.
not the person at the altar that you love, that they were funny, you love that they're a totally different person now.
Yeah.
And so are you. And so much has been lost that you don't recognize that anymore. And people are twiddling their thumbs. They don't know what to do now.
But we try to hang on to that snapshot in time, like this is what we are, and they don't allow themselves to change. But the only thing that never changes is that everything changes. So it's a constant soul evolution, and celebrating your partner, like as you go along for the ride, whether you are fully in agreement with it or not, is like another question. But like really celebrating if that's their path, like I kind of redefined my own definition of marriage a while back. It was I think it was Scott Peterson. He was talking in this like little TikTok video, and he said, marriage is about that. No matter what you tell me, I won't run away, and that I'm in there to be your witness for the long haul. And I really appreciated that because that's how I kind of feel like Anya and I have evolved to, is that we're really there like celebrating each other's journey, and like we tell each other pretty much everything. And it's like it's not all fairy tales and bells and whistles and fun things. Some of it's like really painful, but it's being able to be a witness to that degree for somebody in a space of non-judgment.
Yeah. And the other thing, I think that changes too. You guys are able to do that. I see a lot of people that marriage comes and you don't say things anymore because you don't want to upset the other person. Mm-hmm. Yet prior to that, in the relationship, leading up to the marriage point, you did tell your partner a lot of things, it was a very free discussion, but now marriage comes, well, I don't want to say that because I don't want to upset her. I don't want to tell her I don't like her family. I don't, that sort of thing starts happening. So it's interesting how the dynamic shifts.
I think that kind of leads into why the 86% of people remarry. The real thing, part of the drive for this union is the fear of being alone or the desire not to be alone. Because if you look at all great masters like Christ, Buddha, and all these things, they go out 40 days in the desert. It's only me, myself, and my soul, and the depths of your shadow come up and stare you in the face. When you're by yourself, that stuff comes up. And having another person around 24/7, you get to distract yourself. And so, I think one of the things, if you really empower a marriage to be what it can be, it is to empower that person to really hold space for you to dive into that very thing that you don't want to look at. And now you have support instead of being at it alone. But a lot of people just start coasting. And sometimes they're going down two different sides of the hill. But there's hope to really wake up and start going a different direction. And we have a lot of people tuning in. We have Karen just saying good morning, and Judy tuning with our chemistry saying the Kesha song, Your Love Is My Drug. And then Karen, Anya and I just celebrated our 27-year anniversary of being a couple, 17 years married next month. But we really like looking at that. Not many people can say they've been together 27 years. And it's really, there's new relationship energy, and there's also something to be said for something called old relationship energy. When you've made it past that hump and you really kind of settle in, and you got this quality that just is totally its own thing. We have Mike saying a Nike Kawaii, and Karen coming back to say, yeah, a witness to your story, and one that is consistent through the whole thing as much as possible, because other people can come and go. Hopefully not. There's some people in my life I really believe that they'll be around for a very long period of time. But you never know. There's some people that I thought were going to be in my life forever, and they ended up not being someone that was going to be in my life forever. So you really never know. But the marriage thing, it's for better or for worse, I'm here to watch you be a silly person walking through this wild ride called life.
Yeah, and we're not saying not to. It's just a construct that staying in something that does not encourage you anymore or does not help you grow and being there out of force is I feel not healthy. That's just my 2 cents, and I don't know how else to state that. And I know we take these vows, but Dr. Dyer talks about this, and he had this line of, it's impossible to promise to somebody at the altar that you are going to be XYZ all the time, because the fact is we will evolve. You guys were 20 when you got married or whatever, then you're 40, then you're not the same person. We will never be 10 again. We will never be 20 again. We evolve. We are different people. So to kind of make that strict of a promise when very likely both are either going to evolve side by side and then everything works, or a lot of times one person starts to evolve faster than the other, or shift or change. That's the crux. That's a whole different conversation. What happens within that structure after that big day? But people evolve, people change, and to try to make that same commitment at that point in time, that is a point in time. So things change from there. And then you're trying to use that old moment and pull it into the future. And that's very challenging to do because you were different people at that point in time.
Yeah. It's one big tool I love from Access when I practiced it, is they would say for relationships, one thing you have to do is you have to destroy and uncreate your relationship every day. And the purpose behind it is everything we were yesterday, that's in the past. The relationship today is anew, and throw out everything you think you know about who you're married, about what they're doing and everything, and treat today in its own merit. And if you can do that, your relationship has a lot of capacity to shift and change. And the other thing is, all the changes you do, you got to do it for you and not the other person. And I know that when I was going through the demeshing process with Anya and we were talking about things, there was one comment from one of us about, oh, I can change, I can do that for you. And the response was, well, you got to do it for you. And both of us have. We have completely changed how we interrelate with each other. And it's been really well. Dr. K's been one of my support people through all that, so she knows it's been a process, but a beautiful thing. And one of the books that I think really helped is called Home. I think it's Coming Home. I got to look it up, but it's all about you. If you build your home in somebody else, and then they were to go away, you're homeless, and the importance of being your own soul home. Like your home can't be built in anybody else. And if you can do that and the other person can do that, your relationship really turns into a creationship where you're just really helping. But Judy did ask a question, or I will say somebody asked a question. A lot of growth is uncomfortable. So how do you know if the discomfort or pain in the relationship is helping you grow or holding you back from evolution? I'm going to read it one more time. A lot of growth is uncomfortable. So how do you know if the discomfort or pain in the relationship is helping you grow or holding you back from evolution? And this is specifically growth in the relationship, I'm assuming. Pain in the relationship. I mean, it all gives you more data, but I'm going to look up that book while Dr. K stalls and says something about that.
Everything is helping you grow. Everything. So I don't feel anything is holding you back from your evolution. It comes to, you have to look at what this is just my opinion, looking at the situation and saying, okay, what is mirroring back to me? Because relationships of whatever kind, whether it's a business cohort or, your spouse or your girlfriend, your boyfriend, or a friend, a portion of that relationship is mirroring back to you a part of you. So he's always showing you, hey, this is what you need to work on. So in my times, I've looked at things and going, why can't he do this? And it's because that's something I want. I want to sit on the couch and do nothing. I want to be lazy, So the laziness irritates me because there's something within me that I need to relax more. I need to stop being go, go, go. So it's mirroring. Everything's mirroring to you something. So it's always contributing to your evolution. The part of, is it preventing my evolution? I would say only if you're not looking at that and saying, okay, I really need to look at this. And when two pillars are too close together, things don't work. When two pillars are too far apart, things don't work. So you kind of got to find that median of whether you're going to stay together or not. And I think the best way I can look at that too is when one person is evolving faster than the other. So say you're really working on yourself, you're taking self-development courses, you are meditating, you've recognized the thing within yourself that really needs work. But your spouse is like, nope, life sucks. I ain't doing nothing. then you're evolving faster than they are. And if they don't come around, then usually the other person leaves. And that's kind of a justifiable thing. So I hope that kind of answers that a little bit.
Yep, in a broad sense. And I echo that. Like everything is a data point. Like Neil Donald Walsh, who's, as everybody probably knows by now, is one of my favorite authors. And I was on a call with him when I was going through his 1 year program, and this person got on and just chewed him out about how badly he sucked and his work was trash and all that. And Neil authentically and humbly said, "That's wonderful. Like, you knowing that my work isn't for you, that is just as important as knowing that it is." And because you have a new data point now, and now you know not to waste your time getting my books. That's wonderful. And I mean, he really came across like this authentic space of that's great for you, and also kind of like, why are you here? Why'd you pay all this money to tell me my work is trash to be on this year program? But he didn't say that. That I was interpreting that with some of the energy in it. But like, really, everything is a data point that you can use to make a greater choice for your evolution, and also knowing, developing skill sets, because there's all kinds of different people in the world, and the people closest to us have the ability to trigger us the easiest. And so those are, and myself included, like Oliver, oh my gosh, man, this boy, I imagine that this is how I was when I was a kid. If I had actually been a little bit more outgoing, I was the kid that was quiet. I just don't want anybody to notice me, just because my brother's kind of crazy, so I just wanted to like hide. But Oliver doesn't have that. So I imagine that if I had had a more ability to be outgoing as a child in childhood, that would be me. And that's why he triggers me. And so I'm seeing myself in him. And then it creates this opportunity that all these different interactions are me honing my ability to deal with these situations. Because as we teach and we have classes and things, you run into all kinds of people, and they have the ability to trigger you just like a close family member if the right thing is said at the right timing and energy's right. And maybe these things are training wheels for the ability to deal with that in the wild. And those people that trigger us the most or bring up a lot of stuff or seem to be a lot of friction are huge assets to our development.
Everybody's an asset to your development. But
yeah everybody. Because they're all you.
They are all
metaphysical sense.
I was the kid. I was thinking, it's funny because I was thinking about that this morning. I was like, I am the kid that just did not conform from day one. I did not like authority. I did not like to be put in a box and told what to do. And I was kind of born with that. I just don't conform. I don't want to do what everybody else is doing. I was thinking about how like my mom would just like, you need to be taking piano lessons. I'm like, I don't want to take piano lessons. Well, your cousin's sitting there reading books. You should be I don't want to read books. I was like that just wild child in the background that was just like backyard making fires and lighting them. So everything's kind of coming around to show you, because we are all one conscious energy. So we are reflecting things to each other all the time. So think about that evolution piece and that proof of the magic dragon, but it is all helping you to the evolution. So if your partner is not, you've tried to suggest therapy, and they're toxic, like, you're like, I just want you to come along and work with me. And they're like, nope. Then that is going to inherently, push back your evolution. Yeah. I think that thought came to mind. Yeah. Well, if somebody that toxic and not moving forward, refuses to move forward with you, then that is not helping your evolution.
And sometimes there's a willingness to move forward, but maybe the people are not. There's still a dissonance as you're trying to go. And so imagine like driving a car with one flat tire. Like, they're doing the best. They want to come along and they're trying to pump up the tire. But for the beginning, it's like you're kind of like, it's not quite as smooth. But then there'll be a threshold point where all of a sudden they have like a paradigm shift and that tire becomes inflated. And then you're off and humming a little bit more. Because the real key for it is if two people are in a relationship, this is just my opinion, that the miracle or the miracle is possible if both people want it more than they don't. If there is more willingness to want it and there's a willingness to work at it. And as somebody who's gone through a lot of like unpacking of like PTSD type of stuff, that is some ugly business. And like Anya could have easily given up on me, like as I was being like a super crazy person and like really unpacking like a lot of stuff. And but we both held that space of grace and wanted it more than we didn't. And we moved along. And that's really the recipe. Want it more than you don't.
Yep, that is such a key point. You really have to deep down inside ask yourself that question. Do I want this? And you'll get the answer like, nope, I don't think I want to do this anymore. Then don't force yourself into continuing to do it, because it's like, okay, I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it. If inside you've really shut that door, and you will know if you really shut the door, like, no, I really love this person, and if we could just find a way, then work on it. Then give it a shot, give it a whirl. But inside, that door's closed. Like, I am done. I really don't want to do this anymore. Then don't force it. Just don't.
Yeah. And the other thing is, regardless of anybody choosing to make a relationship a go or not, like the real thing is like learning how to communicate with each other, because it is an art, and you might be saying words, but that is not necessarily expressing and them receiving. There is like an art to communication, I've learned. And then also if either person has triggers, learning what those are, because if someone's triggered, like they can work on it and they can navigate it, and then maybe they're triggered less. But sometimes a trigger happens to me, and in that space when I'm triggered, like when you say emotional, you can't be logical. Is that what?
Yeah, when the emotions are really high, intelligence is low, so you don't say the good things.
Right. So like when there's something like that, it's like just hold space while that trigger happens, and then afterwards unpack. Like Anya can tell me nothing. It's like an alcoholic. Before I was ready to get sober, nobody could tell me anything about getting sober. It's not going to happen. Like until there's the emotions have to peak, they have to subside, and then a logical conversation can happen. But until then, sometimes part of it is learning the art of just holding space through a trigger, and then talking about it on the other side. And we're going to have to jump off here in just a couple minutes, because I have a client at 10:30. But we have maybe a client. We can talk about this very briefly, or we'll hold this for next time where we'll continue our conversation. What if your feelings change daily? Whose doesn't? Might be more data on that. There are times I'm in it, and other times I throw my hands up. I think that is a common thing, actually.
Well, we'll do more on this. I think the next podcast is just really talking about communication tips.
Yeah.
Because here's the tip before we go. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? So before you say stuff, breathe. And when your emotions are really high, we got to work on calming those emotions. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary?
Yeah. And if you got triggered and you skip that part because your rational brain went out the window, then it's like, okay, that was not who I wanted to represent myself as. And the willingness to look at that and then go to your partner going, I'm sorry. I screwed up. I had a moment of stupid, whatever you want to call it. And like the willingness to repair and work through that is equally important. But it is a constant roller coaster, especially if you're more conscious, if you're more awake. Your awareness of the gradients of things, it can swing greatly.
Yep. So the first step is gaining awareness, really, really working on gaining awareness. I work with that with clients. Like, I don't care if we have to spend months on you becoming more aware, more observant, so you catch yourself. So some people move really fast and learn that. Some people take a little bit of time. But when you're able to do that, you're going to catch everything, and you're going to be able to navigate that conversation better. But the rest of it is, we are human, guys. We are growing. We are evolving. Be kind to yourself.
Yep. And I guess the final tip for me would be, if you have that 51%, you both desire it more than you don't, then no matter what, as you move through it, just stay the course, and this too shall pass. Stay the course, this too shall pass. And recognize that, if you spent, like Anya and I, we've been together 27 years. When we had our aha moment that we need to work ourselves, there was a good span of time before that moment. And we were trying to undo years of enmeshment in like a day, a month, a week. It's not that quick necessarily. It can be, but like just recognizing that you didn't get to where you're at overnight, and the exit may be like, if you're only a year into a repair, however long, stay the course. How long did it take you to get to the point where you realized you needed to work on it?
Yeah, totally.
And give yourself a little space of grace. But okay, 10:29. We love you guys. Thank you so much. We'll be back next Thursday at 9, hopefully.
Yes.
Hopefully. 9 o'clock every Thursday. And I'm just looking for my video, and we will catch you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.